All right, I think that's good. We're getting started. Welcome to the office hours, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Paul Berserker01 Batman Shelley. This is your humble host and space bartender at the AstroPub, your professor at the Astro Historian, and yeah, welcome. We're going to be doing office hours. This is a live stream where I talk about Star Citizen lore, news, a bunch of other stuff. So with that, let's get started. Let me pull up the right stuff here. Things working properly. Good. Okay. I'm going to go to Space Industries. There should be an in-game explanation for why ships randomly explode like manufacturing defects. There kind of is. They've done that in the past, but yeah. A lot of the reasons why you randomly explode have little to do with the ship and everything to do with invisible stuff. Like you're running into invisible wreckage or rocks and such. Later, Astro. Thanks for hanging out. For those of you who don't know, we're doing we were doing a lore tour earlier, and then a floor tour, and now we're back here to do office hours. I wanted to have them separate videos, so dark matter pockets, yeah. I would say it's more of dealing with dangerous space debris. All right, so this is going to be an interesting one. This is Invictus. This is probably the only office hours we're going to be doing with Invictus going live. And for those of you who don't know, I've been doing lore tours, floor lore tours since Saturday. Last Saturday. I did Saturday, then I did Sunday, then I did one Tuesday, and then I did one today. The next one will be on Saturday. Yeah. F-Tour, F-Lore, Tour, T-Or. You have to trivia night. Have a good night there, Shiny. Let me see if I can pull open. So, chat. Should I watch the Lynx trailer, even though it 100% is copywritten? It's a fantastic trailer, but the music is 100% not safe for YouTube. Or Twitch. It'll get me hit with a copy strike instantly. We can watch the trailer, but we just wouldn't be able to listen to the music. Do it, no balls. Usually YouTube does is it on another stream? Yeah, but it's just because it's on the stream doesn't mean it's not copywritten after the fact. I just have to go through and edit out the audio for it for the recordings. So, but sure, I'll show it off. It's one of the better trailers I've seen in a long time. Okay, so let's go here.
Your first mistake wasn't your last mistake. All the things you say, lies that infiltrated my bed, and I believed them. Nothing left. But I heart it rose.
Big boy.
Rose the head. You've been gone for so long. My heart breaks, but I can't get enough. 'Cause the taste of you is bittersweet. In a world of make-believe, denying everything we don't wanna see. 'Cause the taste of you is bittersweet. Now the storm has passed. I can see clearly, even though you don't hear me. You
Pyro.
haunt me in my dreams, but I'm waking up.
This is Lorville?
I found a way to breathe. You've been gone for so long. My heart breaks, but I can't get enough. 'Cause the taste of you is bittersweet. In a world of make-believe, denying everything we don't wanna see. 'Cause the taste of you is bittersweet. Cause the taste of you is bittersweet. Cause the taste of you is bittersweet.
100%. That felt like a car commercial. I expected like little do you want to go the distance where no one else has gone before? Do you believe in luxury? Luxury like no one has ever felt. The new 2953 RSI Lynx. Yeah, McConaughey or a nice smooth voice, you know. I'm gonna ask, where is this last planet? Is there somewhere where it feels like this, or is just a production crew used 1,000 pinks? There is, Jaden. It's on Pyro 2, I believe, which is a giant kind of it looks like Pyro 2 or Pyro 3. It's one of the Pyro planets. Where luxury meets luxury. Does it seem like they're preparing for some big addition to the ground gameplay? So here's my theory, and feel free to take this with a giant caveat of, I am not a CIG developer. I do not know everything that CIG does. This is just more based off of observation. It's not true. It's all theories until it's not. My theory is that CIG just hired a fuck ton of new artists. When we look at the ISE a little bit later, you'll notice there's a lot of new faces in the ship team. I think what CIG did was hired a ton of new artists and have been trying to figure out how to keep these artists on as long as possible. And what they've decided to do is, instead of sticking them on a ship and having them work on that, they're thinking maybe if we give these artists a task, a small task to get them started, that gets it into the game so they get the credits, they'll feel a little bit better about working long-term on the project. So I believe that I wouldn't be surprised if this year was all just smaller introductory projects. The Lynx is just kind of bringing it up to standard. The obviously the Storm is smaller. It's a smaller kind of project. It's still kind of a it's the size of an Ursa, or not Ursa, the size of a Nova, still just about. But it's smaller than, say, the Banu Merchantman. And then you have the Fury, and we still have like 5 or 6 other things that are in gray box or better, which haven't been announced yet. And I'm guessing that all of these are this new ship teams and concept artists who've been signed on for CIG over the last year. So. Plus also the new Montreal ship team. So, well, as someone once pointed out to me, they hated the term "take something with a massive grain of salt," because if you take something with a massive grain of salt, it doesn't mean what people think it means. So it's just a game theory. Yes. Apparently that's copywritten. You can get striked for saying that. Or marketing. Meet your credit card. Pretty vanilla. Hold on. Oh, welcome, Pretty Vanilla. Welcome, everyone, from Pretty Vanilla Stream. My name is Paul, Berserker01, Batman Shelley, your humble host, the Space Bartender here at the AstroPub, your Space Bartender on Twitch. Sit back, relax, enjoy the show. We got a good one for you. When we dance, we got to get funky. Usually I have something in the background, but I haven't fixed that one up yet.
You can take away my space suit.
Suit.
You can even take away my space lasers.
No pew-pews.
But you can never,
Never.
ever
Ever.
take away my space game.
GR_DMJ654 just resubscribed for 28 months.
Thank you so much for that 28 months of support there, GR. You were a very important pupper, very impressive pisser of any pedestrian. You rock. Shots and cheers in chat, y'all. Shots and cheers. All right. You just come back from Star Citizen there, Pretty Vanilla, or somewhere else? Just picked up a Polaris today. How many Furies do you think can fit in its hangar? At least 2. Probably more like 4. You been enjoying it, Pretty Vanilla? I'll just say vanilla. He chewed the blueberry gum. Yes. Polaris has a hangar. It's enough for like a Gladius. It's kind of like the hangar on the 890 jump. After 319, or after the free flight, it should smooth out a little bit, and CIG's already released a PTU for it, so hopefully we'll see more fixes in the future. But been working for a while building my airplanes. You're up on the hangar wall. I want to say thanks very much. I know those for those deep dive lore vids or deep dive vids, Paul. I know they're a lot of work. They're very much appreciated here. Thank you for watching there, Captain Pants. I recognize the name. I know. I see you commenting. Thank you. This is the office hours, so we're not going to play a lot of Star Citizen today. We're just going to be talking about the latest news and updates, and just kind of hang out. It's an AMA stream. You can ask me questions if you need to, that sort of thing. Speaking of the Polaris, I saw your tweet about the Polaris lore you're researching. It was a lot more complicated than I thought it was going to be. Waiting for DefenseCon, might pick up a Cutlass V2 balloon preparation for Bounty Hunter V2. Okay, yeah. Part of the fun. I know what I'm getting myself into when I launch into Star Citizen. Yes, yes. Atira. I mean, it serves a good purpose. I just think it's too big. Atira would also probably agree, because Atira has been a big on the, we need something the Ursa-sized rather than something Nova-sized. Something that's easier to kind of do stuff. So yeah, so the Polaris has some pretty impressive lore. I thought it was kind of like the Bengal Carrier, where I really have to kind of stretch and look for some connections to really find some of that detail. But it's a little bit better than the Bengal Black by much, because the brochure has a lot of stuff into it. But when you look into the history of Corvette-class ships in the UEE, it's funny. Like, it's not ha-ha funny. It's, like, depressingly funny. Because the one time the UEE, not even the UEE, really the UPE had a Corvette, seems to have been a Corvette that was designed during the UNE days, like a 200-year-old ship design. That could have been one of multiple Corvettes, because when the UNE, when the nations of Earth became united under the United Nations of Earth, all of the navies of part of the UNE just joined together. So if you had, say, the North American Alliance, which eventually became Americano, if the Americano, which is like North America, almost all of North America kind of together, like Canada, Mexico, and the United States, if they had commissioned, say, RSI to build a new ship, a warship for them, that may be different from a warship that was built in, what is today the European Union. They would have had a completely different design and style. So the UNE had a hodgepodge of different design ships, which weren't unified in design and logistics. So it's just a mess. But they didn't really bother correcting the mess because there wasn't a lot of call for that sort of conflict. So when there was that sort of conflict with the Tavaran, it got really messy very quickly, and they had realized that before the first contact with Tavaran, and were trying to develop those, which is what the Perseus was, and the Retaliator. But they hadn't really gotten to that point yet. So a lot of the larger ships, Corvette and up, really hadn't been updated. After the war, they would, starting with the Idris. But the one time we see a Corvette in action was with under the command of Commander Hester Polaris. And to say she is an absolute badass is to downgrade it. This woman was the commander of a Corvette on a routine patrol when she gets jumped by an entire fleet. But before she got jumped by an entire fleet, she didn't realize she had been boarded by an elite boarding unit of the Tavaran, known as the Naule, who are experts at stealth infiltration and can kill an entire capital ship before the capital ship crew even knows what's going on. So that happens. Then she gets interdicted by this fleet. She's the only ship in the system. And so she decides that, fuck it, we ballin'. Personally goes to fight the Naule to prevent them from getting on board the bridge, while commanding her ship to do hit and run attacks, constantly harassing and off-balancing the Tavaran fleet, preventing them from sending, splinters off to go raid local human settlements. All the while she's in a firefight on her own bridge. Manages to not only hold off the Tavaran and keep them bottled up, but destroys 3 capital ships before reinforcements arrive and drive away the rest of the Tavaran. She then died on the ship before she could get her medical rescue from the wound she'd inflicted from hand-to-hand combat with the Tavaran. Like, absolute mad lad. And it just gets weirder from there, because they just kind of go, we don't need a Corvette anymore. And that's the whole video is just the atrocity of no Corvettes in the UEE. What's your favorite daily ship? Basic question I put on, don't ask. Oh, my daily is a Cutlass. It's a Cutlass. Cutlass Black, baby. Do all the aliens breathe O2? Yes and no. We don't know the exact atmospheric composition of them. It's likely not perfect. Humans can live on these planets, and aliens can live on planets that are inhabited by humans, but they're probably not perfect. Temperature, for instance, is very different. I believe the Banu are live in much warmer climates than humans do. Tavaran are a little bit colder climates. So they'll have different climates and maybe different atmospheric mixtures, but they're breathable atmospheres. Yeah, argon, that kind of stuff, yeah. Are there any stories in the game of a group of people who fell out of contact with civilization during a huge turning point in history? They had one of those, wait, the war is over moment? That happened with Lieutenant Hiro Onanda? Onoda? Not I know of, no. Hey, hey Ryan, how you doing? Not saying it wouldn't happen, but... Have I played Bolt Gun? I have played Bolt Gun. I haven't played it on stream. It's pretty good. Are those trash trucks cleaning the streets? Ford Transit? I don't think so. Now, when Pyro comes out, my daily is going to change from a black to a freelancer. For me personally, it's going to be the freelancer miss, but any other miss will work as well. Or any other freelancer works as well. So let's take a look at the links in general. I like how the Navy uniforms there, and they have drinks. Oh, yeah, but if you're wondering, this is actually what it would look like on the planet right here. For that, that's that whole area. This is actually kind of it's a type of plant that grows on Pyro. This is also Pyro. I think this is Microtech, so. Yeah, I think it's Microtech. Though it could be one of Pyro planets, because I don't think we have a lot of really high mountains like this in Microtech. We may, though. Lorville. Microtech. Like the turntable. Ooh, different standards, different paints. Moon Shadow. Ooh, fancy. Nebula. I like that one. I'm a big sucker for purple, though. And Moonrise. $55 and $60. Paint packs. You can get them in the Constellation Phoenix. See the specs. There's got to be some specs around here. There it is. So 7.75 meters, 30 meters per second, width of 5.7 meters, height of 3.15 meters, and 2 size 1s. I do have a theory of why Squadron 42 was taken off the RSI website. For those of you who don't know, our Squadron 42 was taken off the RSI website. My theory is twofold. Well, one, Shiny Hobo pointed this out to me, and I think they found that out from some other people as well, is that there's actually a German law or German precedent that was set recently, which said that you cannot sell a product without a release date, like a pre-order a product without a release date. And as a result, it's likely that CIG was simply complying with German law because they do have Frankfurt office, so they probably have to comply anyways. Though in theory, they should still be able to do that with all locations except Germany. So it may just be a temporary thing until they get that working. The other theory is that my theory, personally, is that they're going to hike the price up because they're going to make an announcement later this year. CitizenCon predictions. I don't have many predictions for CitizenCon. I mean, I'm fairly confident we'll see Pyro again. We'll probably see some new of the Pyro stuff, like faction-based, some new missions, bounty hunter mechanics, stuff like that. Stuff that's going to be via like live in 320. They'll show off at CitizenCon. This 320 won't be until October after CitizenCon. And then we'll have individual panels of things like clothing, I'm sure, technology, like Probably Vulcan might have something like that. We might see something like a demonstration for the quantum system. But you're still waiting for the Squadron 42 is going to be a pretty good game. I expect Squadron 42 to have lots of mods and a lot of people to have different runs, because it's the kind of game that's being built to have multiple. It's not surprisingly heavily inspired by Dark Souls, because Chris Roberts is a huge Dark Souls fan. What are my thoughts on the Temporal Storm? I don't like its aesthetic. Not because it's bad aesthetic, but because it doesn't make sense. It was built around the same time as the Tumbril Nova, but they look entirely different. On top of that, its stats suck for its size. If it was just small enough, just trimmed a little bit down so it could fit inside, say, a Valkyrie, it would be 10 times more viable. Because then it becomes like an infantry support vehicle as well as kind of a fast attack vehicle. The fact that it requires a Hercules to transport when you already can get a Nova for it, the same place, it's like, okay. So it's not really designed for solo players. And if you're going to be doing it in mass groups, why not just get a Nova? Like, it's too big for its role. It's like footprint is far too big for its role. Did RSI floor earlier there, Drycon? As flexible for mission resolution as Deus Ex was. Yeah, it's because of the way that they're designing it, but just office hours, yes. If you want to watch the floor, it's already up. So it's up on the past broadcasts for YouTube. You still need a C2 for it. It doesn't even, its footprint is wider than the Nova's. According to their own stats, it's about half a meter larger in terms of its width than the Nova does. So it won't even fit inside of an A2. Like, floor a tour. I think this court ruling lockpin was very new, so it's probably not yet quite, because it's a court ruling as far as I understand. It's probably not quite yet tested as a precedent. So something like an expansion for a vehicle or like a video game, or like Star Citizen's in a unique position because it sells concept ships before without a release date. There are some games that do something similar, but it's harder to tell. Whereas like Squad 42, you can't play. Like you do not have access to the product yet, period.
You wanna dance?
Inforunners. What am I doing? Hey, what's up, Inforunners? Oh, how you doing, X? How you doing, Al? Welcome, everybody. You bring feet questions. Thank you, X. I love that you're sending me feet pics. Thank you for that shout out. Checking out the info owners. You'll see me on there several times. I've been there for a couple. I've been on there a couple last couple videos. Have been on them as well. So your glasses could use a wipe. I do. I could, but I'm not going to. Winks of Daedalus. Well, at least you live up to your name, Winks. I need to get new glasses is what it is, but I'm not going to bother to do it until this summer. You have no idea how old these glasses are. They are over 10 years old. This is a decade-long glasses I own. Yeah, I laughed when that dev was like, I don't know why you'd be looking at feet, and you could almost see in his face what it's like. Oh, I shouldn't have not said that. I should have not said that. It's like, yes, you shouldn't have, brother. You shouldn't have, but you walked right into that. Well, it's mostly that I haven't really had a need to, because I can see fine right now. Like I can see. Algor just said, "Hey, Paul." Winks of discretion did the little X with a little smiley face. Captain No Pants said, "Kinky." Perseus says, "Why buy glasses when you buy ships?" This little lol emote from G Sharp. You know, I can see fine. I can struggle to kind of read it, especially at distance. But my eyesight isn't terrible. It's just not perfect. So I have such low resolution that I haven't really bothered to get new glasses, because when I'm not streaming or gaming, doing any kind of fine kind of work, I just take my glasses off. Recently, I have been wearing my glasses more just to reduce eye strain, because I'm getting older, so my eyesight's getting a little bit worse. So I do need to get new glasses, but that's the reason I never really had a thought about that until recently. The double raid did work. Good, awesome. Good to see that. I know sometimes it can go weird on YouTube. What if the new glasses have more frames per second? I need to know too. I have to look at my shoe boot collection and find something to match my Lynx. Then I'm gonna have to match armor with. I don't know the best boots. I can't remember the name of the boot, the shoes I use. But the fancy shoes have an imperial color, which is I like, the kind of purple color. I called my vision low resolution. I didn't mean to say that. It feels like low resolution is when I'm looking at something. It's just a haze. Watch a 480p video. You can see most of it. You can understand what's going on, but it's kind of fuzzy. That's kind of what my eyesight's like. I have 480p resolution for my eyes. When I have my glasses on, it's 4K, but... Only today, because of the lore tours, the floor tours. So that's the reason why I streamed early. I did stream a little earlier. I normally wouldn't have, because, you know, but I got out of work early, and then I had to do a floor tour. I basically got home from work, ate like a snack, talked with the wife, started the lore tour, and then moved into this. So. But over time, my eyesight is becoming more 1440. I'm sorry, 144p. But you know, 480 was once considered a high res, Paul. Thanks for making me feel old. It's not that high res now, but back then there were tricks that you could use to make 480 look good. Usually by smearing Vaseline on stuff, but yeah. Yeah, I have to. Yeah. I get what you're saying, Winks. Yes, my mouth is 1440. dithering. There was lighting would work sometimes. So, this was a technique that was used in old film a lot, which was to kind of like overwhelm the camera. I think it was a type of lens they used. You'll see it in like the golden age of Hollywood. Like when they're doing beauty shots of actors, especially women, they tended to do this thing where it looks kind of like ethereal. It almost looks like there's just slightly out of focus on the edges and kind of focuses more on the face. I think it's a camera lens that they use. But it was a super popular thing to use for especially like romance and that sort of things. Yeah. I always like to call it like it's like someone smeared Vaseline on a lens. That's what it feels like. Fringing, yeah. It's called soft focus filter, yeah. I knew it was more of a mechanical thing that it was used a lot, but it was often a technique that you could see on like to make things feel more, just in general, more light. And as a result, it was like, it looked like someone had smeared Vaseline everywhere. It was like you're filling through like a little bit of a haze. It's dream sequence, yeah. I believe I have cataracts. No, I don't have cataracts. Huh. Original Star Trek did it, yeah. A lot of TV shows, early TV shows did it. In the 80s, they thought that sort of filter kind of went out of fashion. But as a result, they either blasted light, like massive amounts of light, so it was like you got like a lot more detail, or they just hid everything in shadows. There's actually a popular theory I've seen where the reason why horror movies are scarier on VHS, for instance, especially in the 80s and 90s, was because everything was darker.
You can take away my spaceship. You can take away my space suit. You can even take away my space lasers.
I have Rincons and I have astigmatism. That's what I have. Oh wait.
M Walker 300 just resubscribed for 8 months. Thanks for all the great content.
M Walker, thank you so much for that 8 months of support. You're a very important pupper, very impressive pisser, very new pedestrian. This is your fault. You're just drinking night. Shots and cheers in chat, y'all. Shots and cheers. You're right, Captain No Pants. I plan on going to go to the doctor. It's just more of a time thing. You're a teacher, you don't get days off, and when I'm streaming, I gotta, Them biddies.
Thanks for all your work, Paul.
Thank you for them biddies. I'm also at the age where I need to start getting the old reach around. not even the fun reach around. The old doctor making sure my butt don't have cancer checks. So just at the edge of that. Did you 30K though? Get a prostate exam though. Seriously, y'all. It's important. You don't want to have butt cancer. It's not fun. This is a wild stream tonight. Yes. I'm almost the same age. Don't do this to me, Father Time. Just make sure you really like your doctor. From what I've heard, it's gotten better since the old put on a glove situation, but none of the cancers are fun. No, they're not. But I will be back shortly. I'm going to go use the restroom. When I come back, we'll work on, we'll look at the storm, work on the storm, and look at the storm, and then we'll watch ISC. Don't go anywhere. Oh, if you're on YouTube, mute until I come back, because Twitch chat's going to lose its mind. Ugh.
Good news, everyone!
2 words.
Weapons free, y'all.
Distress taken.
Drugs.
Hunting is a complicated profession.
2 words. Distress taken.
I'm just an old-fashioned cowboy.
Cash it as wares, if you have coin.
I'm Fly. I'm Pilot.
Everybody and his dog calls himself an outlaw.
Good news, everyone!
Drugs.
I'm just an old-fashioned cowboy.
2 words. Distress taken. 2 words.
Bounty hunting is a complicated profession.
Drugs.
I'm just an old-fashioned cowboy.
Cash it as wares.
Everybody and his dog
Stop
calls
it,
himself
chat.
an outlaw.
Stop it. No more fun. So you come back and they stop it immediately.
I'm Fly. I'm Pilot.
No, let's keep going. I don't know how this thing started. It's just it just happens now. Chat's just decided it's become tradition. It's not a forced meme or anything. It's just tradition. Tradition.
Everybody and his dog calls himself an outlaw.
These have really good sound trips. I gotta put up some new ones. Emergent behavior. All right. I can send it to you, Sparkplug, but you can find it online. There's a bunch of videos on it. Just look up the Ticia, not Ticia. Oh gosh, I almost did the bad thing. Why am I forgetting her name now? Starts with a T, I'm pretty sure. Yes, I'm definitely down for the Purple Ursa. Tessa. Thank you, Tessa. Tessa Bannister. Look up Tessa Bannister missions Star Citizen on YouTube. You'll find that clip somewhere in those videos. Hey, Hyperblast, how you doing? Wait, the purple is cross compatible with the Ursa as well? Fuck yeah. Do your kids behave that way, class 2? Nope. Not at all. Well, I've had it in the past, but not recently. Not in maybe one class out of. I have 8 classes, or I have 6 classes a year. Been teaching for 10 years. A lot. One out of a lot. At least 20 classes have been, only one of them have acted like that. According to the Q&A? Nice. I keep telling people, this generation of kids is not like us when we were growing up. We were little fuckasses. We were absolutely horrible to one another. These kids are a lot more sympathetic. They have a lot more empathy with one another. Big thing. Not to say there's not bullying and other things like that. It still happens, but there's a lot less of... the kids are a lot less shitheads. If they're shitheads to, like, the system. Like, they'll fuck over the school. A good example of this is, like, two kids were getting in each other's face in one of my classes when I was very early teaching. I used to make a joke where, like, you know, don't get in trouble. Don't do it in my classroom because I have to fill out paperwork. It was a joke. And these two kids were getting really into their faces. And so I tried to cut the tension by saying, hey, don't fight in here. Because it's too much paperwork. And the kids just looked at me and said, we respect you, Mr. Shelley. And then they walked out of my classroom to fight. I was like, that's not what I meant. That's not what I meant. At least they respected me, I guess. But it's what you said. It did not cause paperwork. It was not in my classroom, so I didn't have to do the incident report. It was in the hallway. It was over dumb high school stuff. So, you know, machismo, people getting in each other's faces and letting their testosterone happen. But it was two guys, so, you know, the next day they were fine. I mean, they were suspended for a couple days, but by the time they came back to my class, they were both fine. They didn't give a shit. That's what happens with boys for some reason. Two boys get all testosterone up and like really like up in each other, and they beat the fuck out of each other for about 5 minutes, and afterwards everything's cool. Become best friends afterwards. Yeah, don't die in this course, it's too much paperwork. It's basically what I usually say. Don't die in my classroom, it's too much paperwork. All right, let's look at this. So this is the Temporal Storm. It's heavily implied through the leaks. We saw one thing, and it's also implied, I think it's in the description as well, that it's an they call it an assault vehicle. It's basically a cavalry assault vehicle. People have compared it to like the Striker, modern day Striker, and they're other kind of similar to that, like, sort of an IFV, but the technical term is anti-weeb vehicle. What do you mean anti-weeb vehicle? This thing is a weeb vehicle of its own. It's definitely an anime vehicle. It's even the designer, the concept artist said this is very anime and manga. I'm like, yeah, it is. I hate this look. Not because it's a bad look, but because it makes no sense next to the Nova. This was built in 2606. Let me pull up the Nova. I'll tell you when it was built. So, I don't have the date for it, but it was built around the same time as this. This was built in 2606. The Nova was built in the First Avaran War. So these two vehicles were built at the same time. They look nothing alike. No, help me, Storm Chan. I'm stuck in a... Oh, God. Now, according to ISC, it should a lot more maneuverable than the Nova. The Nova's pretty maneuverable. It's probably faster. The problem I have with it is that its size. We'll come down here and look at the footprint. The footprint of this thing is 7.5 meters. The Nova, I'll pull over the Nova because this is probably a better source in general, is 7 meters. So it's wider than the Nova. It's shorter than the Nova. It's about the same size as the Ursa in terms of height, but its length is I think smaller than the Ursa. Yeah, than the Nova, but its length is also pretty long. Yeah, this thing should not be this big. If I had one major complaint, it's that it's too wide. It needs to be smaller, about 2 meters smaller. It needs to be about 2 meters shorter, like length. Too wide, trim about 1 meter to 1.5 meters off of the width and the length. Once you do that, if it fits inside of a like about the same as an Ursa, it would be fantastic. It doesn't have the speeds on here. I guess I can download the technical specs and pull it up. Sometimes they have the speeds on here. Looks like they don't have the speeds. My guess is that it's going to be less, not as fast as the Cyclone, but faster than the Nova. So somewhere between the Ursa and the Nova. It's not carrying troops. It requires a Hercules to deploy. Like, none of this makes any sense for gameplay wise. At least this thing needs to be small enough to be carried on a smaller platform, and then it becomes more valuable as an asset. Nope, it won't fit in a Valk. A Valk barely fits in Ursa. Let me look up the Ursa. And Ursa's width is 5 meters. If you trimmed 1.5 meters off of the Storm, you could fit this into a and 2 meters off the length, then you could fit this into a Valk. Yeah. Yeah, I watched the bit after the credits. It's pretty good. If this was the size of an Ursa, I would say instant. Like, yes, perfect, exactly what we need. An Ursa, but with a big fucking gun, and it's tracked. Praise it, love it, do it. Like, single-seater, gun-toting, Ursa-sized death machine. You see nothing but them all over the battlefield. It'd be great for it. The width is the issue there. X. The width of the Valkyrie's bay is about maybe 6 meters. This is about 1.5 meters too wide for it. If only it transformed into a robot. Yeah. Yeah, like an infantry support vehicle. Yeah. I don't know if it has countermeasures. Not that I could see. I don't think that's been determined yet. The problem is that the base-to-base battles and that kind of stuff makes sense, but it's still too big. its purpose is a light assault vehicle. It's supposed to be able to deploy, get out into combat, do its thing, and come back. It just doesn't work that well. On top of that, the aesthetics are ass. Like, I do not like this because it just screams that it looks like the Scorpion tank from Halo and the Batman Tumbler had a baby. And I know a lot of people are like, that's really cool. It's like, that just doesn't fit for the aesthetics that are like at all that I like, period. Let alone like for Tumbler. Yeah, the track cover, and that may also be adding like width to it. So, Paul, Theaters of War vehicle? Maybe. Yeah, but you like Drake ships, so you're wrong anyway. I don't just like Drake ships, I just like Drake ships. But does it come in black? Let's see. It's a good point. No. It does not come in black. It only comes in tan, it looks like. I mean, in some of the images, yeah, like green, gray, and like more green than gray, but yeah. But the actual vehicle shown is gray, is a sand color. Does concierge skin as well? Why am I not seeing on this option? I'm concierge and I'm logged in, I'm pretty sure. Hold on. I want to make this mistake twice. I'm not logged in, that's why. Yeah, that's why. So yeah, good gray-green, so. It doesn't come in black. Not yet, at least. Then I can't be Batman. I'm sure there'll be a black skin on release. This, but Ursa size would be perfect. We also need if this was an infantry fighting vehicle, if this was the same, but you had like a back entrance and the kind of driving seat in the front, and you can carry up to like 6 people. No notes, perfect, love it, done. If this was just slightly bigger, slightly taller, had an interior, with jump seats and the gun on the top, I wouldn't have any problem. But this is trying to split the difference between like a light tank and like a rapid assault vehicle. It just it needs a Rock DS version with another outer seat. I'm not saying it's a bad vehicle. I'm just struggling to see its purpose on the battlefield and how it's going to work in the game. I can see what it's going to do, but the question becomes, when will you take this over a Nova? Oh, well, what if I'm solo? Why are you... The only way you're solo is if you have this and a Hercules. You're going to fly a Hercules solo? At that point, you're already pulling out a lot of money just to deploy this small vehicle. And then when you get in that ship and leave, a vehicle and leave, you're going to leave your expensive ship in the middle of nowhere? Probably not. So you're already in a situation where you need to invest a lot of money to even get this access to this ship to take it to a location you need to get it to do so. Three of these versus one tank might be better for a small squad. I don't think so. I'd argue that that's different. Logan! Dance for me. How you doing there, Logan? Thank you so much for that raid. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the office hours. This is a stream where I kind of talk about the lore and the news of Star Citizen. Kind of hang out in an AMA stream, too, if you have to ask to that. What were you up to? I'm going to be honest. We've been talking about this. I want to know your feelings there, Logan. What are your feelings on the storm? Should Origin release a luxury edition assault vehicle? No, but it'd be funny if they did. You can call me, because I'm not on comms, I don't think. Or am I? I am on comms for some reason. Yes, feel free. I didn't realize I was still in comms. Yeah, you're good.
You are in comms, yes.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hello.
I didn't want to ambush you, but like, hello there.
Yeah, you're good.
What are my opinions on the storm? Yeah, that's a funny interpretation of Scout.
Yeah.
It's enormous. It's enormous. It's so big. There's nothing scouty about it. It's the same freaking footprint as a dang Tumbril Nova tank, man.
Okay, good. I didn't know if it was just me. You're just being like, I'm being like, oh, this is huge.
Dude,
why would you put this as a scout vehicle? This is like a space marine or what's the old joke? This is a Steiner Scout. That's what this is.
Yeah, this is a Steiner Scout Lance vehicle.
Yeah.
Right, this is like the Atlas freaking battle mech going around saying, yeah, just Scout Force, you know? It's enormous. And the other thing as well is, why on earth in a combat vehicle that's going to go into combat would you have the poor pilot getting in through the front?
Through the weakest point is the front, where the pilot is.
Yes, and they have to get out through that too. So if you're, I don't know, say your scout vehicle has been disabled in the middle of combat, pointing forward toward the enemy, like it probably will. Oh, I'm sorry, you're just going to slowly but surely deploy out of the front of the vehicle where the fire's going to be coming at. Why? It's so silly. Have him go through the back and have the engine in the front. That will fix it.
Yeah, and just do the same screen that you have for the Fury, the little like dissolves into camera.
Yeah, exactly. In all seriousness, okay, this vehicle looks cool. I really like the look. I really like the vibe. I like the design of it. I just think it needs to be about 15% smaller overall, about just a little thinner so it fits in something like a Valkyrie, and you get in through the back rather than the front, then it'll be fine. You know?
Yeah. I mean, even practically in the game, if you're disabled and you have to get out, you're going to walk right into an enemy. Like infantry will just stand right there and shoot you.
Exactly. Precisely. And the worst part is if you want to get your gun, you have to go to the side compartment on a track. It's like, so basically you're getting the guy to get out the front and then walk around to the side again, vulnerable to enemy fire. It's like, come on. CIG, you are better than this. You make beautiful ships. This is, come on.
Thank you, Logan.
Chat. You're welcome, mate. I'll leave you to it. Have a good one, bud.
You're good. All right, yeah, as a tank with no interior. Yeah, I don't even have a problem with that, with a tank with no interior. It looks cool. That's the problem. If it was smaller, like I agree with Logan. It's like if it was smaller, it would be even the front deployment. I wouldn't have a big issue with. It'd be like it's fine. That's fine if it was smaller, because at least you could justify it as being like, I can get out and do that kind of thing, but... It's a big little tank. Big little. Say that again, Captain No Pants, but slower. Remind me of the stories of the Bradley. Well, the difference is that in Star Citizen, you need to have some sort of interior to be able to access certain things. I think it'll look better in a 600 than a Nova, yeah. I think this is... For me, there's a lot of problems with it. And I think the problems would have been addressed if anyone asks, like this is simple things. Like, how am I going to play with this in game? It looks cool, but looks aren't everything. You need to also have practicality. The Bradley went through an extensive design process, though. That's what a lot of people don't realize, is that Pentagon Wars is lying to you. There's actually a fantastic documentary on it by Laserpig, which I will never not promote Laserpig, because he's one of those content creators I watch. Mostly because he pulls out some fascinating facts that I could then do research into. That's what he wants you to do. He does what I want you to do, which is he'll do a video on something and ask you to do the paperwork themselves. It's always been supposed to carry a squad. It's not really... The Pentagon Wars thing is actually confusing, because the Pentagon Wars... doesn't understand. The person who wrote Pentagon Wars was in the Air Force, not the Army, and didn't understand the squad sizes for the Army. Like, oh, full squad. And it's like, not really how that worked. That's a different discussion, though. There's a great one on that. I think it's called Bradley Wars, is the name of the video. I will say, for the Storm's benefit, it's realistic in that equipment is mostly stored externally, so it wouldn't blow up, yeah. The faux comedic documentary, which was also a book, yeah. Which is based off of a book. That's what I'm talking about. The guy in the movie is the writer who wrote the original Pentagon Wars, who, again, there's a great documentary on it by Laserpig on YouTube, who breaks it down a little bit and gives sources and stuff like that. How many railguns hits do you think the Storm can take before destruction? 2. It's a great black comedy. Pentagon Wars is a fantastic black comedy. I'm a big fan of black comedies, though. How many hits does Nova take? 1, once the shield's down. I'm saying 2 because it'll take 1 to take the shield down on this thing and 1 to blow it up. I think the Nova can take a couple more rounds on its shield than 1. Who's giving me a message? Oh, Scarlett. Thank you, Scarlett. I think the Railgun is heading for a big old nerf eventually. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of stuff that's going to change. Basically, my thoughts on the Storm is, as a gameplay tool, it lacks some serious edge. It needs to be. It definitely needs to be rethought. And I don't want to say it needs to be reconcepted, but I think it needs to be reconcepted. It won't. It'll come out. But I think when it comes out, a lot of people are like, this is cool. We'll figure out how weak it is. It's gonna be overpowered or underpowered when it initially releases, and then eventually when it gets to the point where it's actually balanced properly, it will not do what people think it does. And again, I don't see myself ever needing something like this over a Nova. Like, CIG is going to make it so that the Nova is more powerful alone than three of these together. Yeah, if this was a Tavaran tank, it would be okay, though it would be weird with the treads, but I can still see it. Or if this was like an Aegis tank or just a new manufacturer, it would look okay. I don't like the aesthetic. I know Loken does, I know a lot of people do. I don't find it very good, but I understand why people like it. I see it as an enclosed cyclone with treads and a pilot weapon. I'd be okay with that, though. This is not that. Because this is like 30% larger than that. I wouldn't say it's the Redeemer of ground vehicles. I actually like this compared to the Redeemer. Like, I don't hate the aesthetics on this. I can see where it comes from, and I could see a lore reason why it looks like this. It's an experimental design done by the team trying to ape Tavaran technology, or just with some cool different ideas. You know, that's fine. Second Tavaran War was a chaotic time in human history. People were just throwing shit at the wall to see what stuck because they were just getting their ass kicked. Humanity was just getting itself dragged in the dirt and punched in the face repeatedly by what should have been a weaker force, a force that we'd already beaten and knew how to beat and had better technology by then. But no, we still just got our asses fucking just absolutely spanked by the Tavaran. So the UEE going, fucking help us, and some crazy dude popping out of a manga, you know, being like, I have an idea. We'd be like, sure, cool. Dude waking up being like, I saw it in a dream. And Tumbril just going, go, do it. All right? Anything. The reason why it works better over rocks is because it's independent suspension. Each of the tracks will be will work independently. So there's definitely some lore bits in there that can kind of tie that in. So it's not too bad. And I don't hate the aesthetic. I just hate the aesthetic in the context. I hate the aesthetic of the Redeemer. I just hate it to death. Yeah, that's the other problem is the Hercules. I'd love for the Hercules to be a nice to have, not a required to have. Let's watch this.
Invictus is here, and with it a celebration of all things spaceship and space vehicle. And with today being both RSI and Tumbril Day, we've got introductions to 2 new ground vehicles for you this week, starting with an old friend ready to make our Constellation Phoenix complete, the RSI Lynx.
Ground vehicles in Star Citizen play quite a large role. Obviously, we have these fully realized full planets and moons. You don't always want to spend all your time flying over them in your ships. We're going to have things coming online in the future, such as weather, that's going to make that prohibitively more dangerous to do. Flying.
See, that feels good. You notice, hold on, let me rewind it a little bit.
You don't always want to spend.
Look at the plants. Look at the plants.
Spend all your time flying over them in your ships. We're going to have things coming online in the future, such as weather, that's going to make that.
That is the thing that I hate about windstorms now, is that if you had plants moving like that because of the wind, I would know, oh, there's a windstorm around me, even if I can't see other aspects, because I can actually see that. But right now, wind doesn't do that to any of the surrounding foliage.
That prohibitively more dangerous to do.
Flying is the main traversal type, but of course with ground vehicles, there is so much more to explore on planets. It adds so much diversity to the missions that we have.
I feel like ground vehicles are an opportunity for players to have fun and explore the terrain of our lovely planet. Not from, going in from a top side, but really getting in and around with the dunes and the broken ships and stuff.
The fun, the dynamic. You get some feedback from the road. If you enjoy driving, it's something for you, isn't it? It's not always a spaceship.
You need to have the options. I mean, if you don't have a ship, how are you going to get from A to B? You need something to get you there. And if you're going from A to B, then someone's in the way. You get a tank.
I love the ISC team.
At Invictus launch week, we're introducing 2 new vehicles to the game, the drivable RSI Lynx and a concept vehicle, which we'll talk about later. The Lynx was introduced alongside the RSI Constellation Phoenix back in 2014. It was mentioned as it's sort of an add-on to the Phoenix.
The Lynx is RSI's more luxury counterpart to the Ursa rover.
It expands the capabilities. I suppose there's an element of, showing off maybe.
It's for the distinguished individual who likes to travel in style.
It serves a different purpose to the Ursa. It's very much for VIP transport and exploration.
We've taken some stuff from the Scorpius. We've taken some stuff from the Ursa itself. We've invented other stuff from scratch because not everything that we needed already existed. It is fun and fancy.
I think the exterior is amazing. It's got so many great angles and it just looks so RSI. It just comes together really nicely. We took the Ursa and we
slimmed it.
Basically made it beautiful.
It trades out some of that rugged utilitarian functionality for just a more enjoyable experience to ride around exploring in the back of.
So it's a lot of clean, glossy panels, higher quality materials, and less dense detail, more focusing on angular lines.
We're very constrained with this overall size dimensions. It has to fit in the Phoenix. So we couldn't make the vehicle any longer, wider, taller. So we had to work to the same footprint.
We've tried to not have too much visible mechanics on the outside of it, because you don't want to go up to a fancy luxury car and just see the engine just there. You know it's a car, you know it's got an engine. You don't need to know where the engine is. You just want it to look good whilst you're actually getting from A to B.
It's very nice design. Alberto, our concept artist, did a very good job on that. We had quite a lot of references to new electric trucks, that type of thing. Got a clean day running lights. As you go round to the side, you've got like a peek-in window of the cockpit. So underneath you can sort of see feet. I don't know why you'd want to see feet, but yeah, you can.
Yeah, X. Who wants to see feet, X?
And then we've got the suspension uprights, which are finished in like a goldy colour, which is quite nice. It's quite ornate for something that sort of takes the load of the vehicle and that kind of thing. A very nice 13-piece door. 13-piece on my side. You're not going to see 13 pieces.
I think my favourite thing on the Lynx is the wheels. They are quite unlike anything else we've got in the game.
We've tried to go for wheels that would seem a little bit more luxurious, so we've gone for a shape that will kind of make them a little bit quieter.
They look pretty cool. They're very evocative of those sort of sand racing tyres with the big ribs on them. They give it a very strong visual identity from the outside.
My favourite thing about the Lynx is the huge rear windows. Got this lovely
I'm eating. Food is now everywhere. Hey, listen, you did this to yourself there, X. You did this to yourself. Nothing says luxury like laser turrets. To shoot the peasants with, Via, you got to remember, you got to be able to clear the peasantry off so you can actually have a nice, beautiful. So no one wants to see the protesters trying to protest you, trying to prevent you from destroying the environment. You want to be able to laser them so you don't have so many blood. It's just nice and clean wounds as they're lying dead in the bush somewhere. You don't actually have to see them or smell them.
Wraparound window, it just creates a very different atmosphere inside the vehicle.
Whether you're having in-game business meetings or just chilling with your friends, having that scenery so on display right next to you really adds to the whole experience when you're just sat in the back with your champagne.
When you step in, we've got some TVs that pop out of the sides of the panels, some personal storage, and seats, which move. And you can push a button and they will spin around. You've also got a location for storage, which obviously folds away so that if you've got something you just want to put up there, you don't have to see it, but you know it's there. We've also got a weapons rack. It folds itself away and it pops out. It's got some nice little smoky glass doors on the front of it.
Hold on.
Got some nice little...
What? I mean, I've seen that before. That's like the
folds itself away and it pops
CIG
out.
Or that's one of the ones. I don't remember seeing the Badger Bad though. That's pretty cool. I like the little the decals on it.
Got some nice little smoky glass doors on the front of it.
The lighting is designed to be a more habitable area for your luxury passengers.
We have a magnificent full-length fridge, and off to the left we've got a couple of shelves where you can store stuff. We don't say it's a drug storage location, but secretly it is a drug storage location. Just don't tell the cops.
I love how this is the most realistic. Watch what happens. He's surrendering, so what does he do? He kicks him in the nuts. He was already surrendering. You kicked him in the nuts?
Compared to the base Ursa, the Lynx is a little more agile, a little faster. It is like this because it just has less
immersion
weight to it, less carrying capability, so it can trade that off for speed. And the two people that are sat in the back in relative luxury have a much nicer experience seeing the sights of the universe around them. Compared to the other ground vehicles in events such as the Daymar Rally, I think this is going to be a strong competitor. It's going to be really interesting to see which players prioritize over the other, whether you take the speed of the Lynx versus the increased durability of the Ursa itself. But you don't often see Bentleys racing against other vehicles in real-life rallies, so maybe not as durable as the others.
This is for people that like to get from A to B and look like they're in a good car when they're doing it.
I think the fantasy of
I love
having someone
jump.
chauffeur you around while you're sitting in the back drinking cocktails or the champagne and looking at your business portfolio while just the world of Star Citizen goes on around you. It's pretty cool.
It's also for people who'd never be caught dead racing in a mule.
So that's the new way to get around the surface of Stanton's planets and moons in style. But what about those who want a bit more pew-pew with their hot looks? Just go with it. Well, Tumbril has you covered with the latest in planet-side mobility and destroyability with the Temporal Storm. Let's find out more.
Hello again. It is once again myself, John Crew. Let's talk about the concept vehicle that we're introducing at Invictus launch week, the Temporal Storm. The Temporal Storm is a light/scout tank from Tumbril. In a lot of
Neither of those things would be something I'd call that this is.
of combined armed forces, you rely on reconnaissance on the ground to let you know what's coming ahead. And whilst we do have an array of ground vehicles that can do this role, not very many of them are as heavily armored as a tank. And sometimes reconnaissance goes a bit sideways and you need some firepower to help get you out of that situation. So the Storm is really excels in this scenario. It can be ahead of the fleet on the ground, engage targets and hold its ground before the main force of ground vehicles arrives for backup. One aspect that we wanted to change from the traditional tank and Nova setup is making this energy weapon based. So it had a much greater independence from the main task force on the ground, and that it wasn't constrained by ballistic ammunition. So it has an energy autocannon on top, twin-barreled, to help lay down firepower, really only constrained by the size of its capacitors and power plant. The Storm is really designed for supporting Novas in attacks. It can take on most other ground vehicles. If you're brave, you can take on a Nova with it, but you probably want to bring a friend or two to help even the fight.
I received the task to complete a new vehicle. I was told to do a tank, most precisely something that would have become a killer of killers. We had to go back to the origins of Tumbril and let this new tank look less like the Nova tank and more like the Cyclone. So it was important to get back that aggressiveness and that dynamics that the Cyclone had. So we opted for something a little less classical and went on a design that is absolutely more related to the manga and anime's world.
He even admits it. He admits it. It's a manga anime tank. This does look like something that would come straight out of an anime, because the complex animations of getting out of the ship, and you get out of the ship at the front of the vehicles, that's all anime logic.
When people see the Storm for the first time, I want them to feel scared. There is no flimsy paneling, there is no beautiful refined surface. This is just optimal and very, very dynamic. So we don't have a lot of parallel lines, we have a lot of X's and V's, very strong shapes that deline what is popularly recognized as dynamic and aggressive. The interiors of the Storm will feel really full of pipes, of fabric, of mechanical stuff. It have to look basically ventral, like you have just been eaten by a machine. So what we have is very composed design, something that is uncommon in the tank we know today. So what we wanted to achieve when you look at the Storm is fast. Strike fast, move fast, do everything fast, no need to rely on a crew. I like that it looks a bit like an animal. It's very, very snaky, or looks a bit like a crocodile.
Now, of course, the big question everyone always asks for every new concept promotion is when? When will it go into production? Well, let's go now to the vehicle team in our Los Angeles studio and find out more.
The problem is, where my story goes is always I will identify all of the issues that I have to overcome first, and then like build a plan for breaking them down. So I'm trying to think of a way of phrasing it, you know?
This is who'd ever seen Snake. His point of saying it's snake is it looks like it's low to the ground, like it crawls like a snake. I can see where he's saying the snake. It has the kind of hunched ground. It's like clutching the ground. And when you can even see him kind of go like, snake's not the right word. And he says crocodile. And it does look like a crocodile. It looks like how crocodiles pull themselves across the ground. But if you're building a light assault tank, neither of those animals are fast. Those are both very, very slow animals. I know snakes can be pretty fast, but not that fast. I would have thinking like something like a wolf or a cheetah, maybe pop it up a little bit more, just a little bit more clearance. You can kind of see the differences between it. Maybe like pop it up so you can move the tracks in a little bit more, get that like 2 meters in so you can move more space. You sacrifice a little bit of height, but not that much. You have the weapon deployed back down. It's like kind of a concealed. When you want to attack it, you can unconceal it. You could save some more height. Kind of like a snowmobile, but like aggressive.
We had a lot of cleaning up to do to make sure it was worthy of the engine. It's ready for engine. It's not going to break anything when it goes in there. And that was what most of the initial white box work we did, at least from an art side. For design, we were more concerned about alleviating a lot of the issues we knew were present with the Nova.
Oh yeah, Gators are a lot faster than people think, but traditionally speaking, you don't think of a Gator as fast, right? You think of a Gator as slow and lumbering. Dangerous as fuck, but slow and lumbering.
Nova, just like traversing on uneven terrain, exiting the hangar. These are issues we solved first, rather than waited until later in production and realized there were more difficult tasks to overcome.
So most recently, we finished Gray Box. We completed all the animations. Currently, I am doing a material and detail pass on the tread housings for the Tumbril Storm. This thing has challenged me in ways I haven't been challenged before in working in the game industry.
This is what I'm talking about. You could do the same thing. It's effectively a similar kind of a design. You just put it more under, kind of like maybe like a little chassis, so it's like, or little attachments, so that you're covered by panels, so it kind of plops it up a little bit more. Something like that to give it makes it a little higher. Obviously, this would be a little bit high, but like that undercarriage looks a lot better. Yeah, this is not what I'm talking about exactly. What I'm saying is that you notice how the suspension works in the bottom. Similar to that, whereas right now it's super flat, you can kind of push it in a little bit more. I'm not talking about the actual like design of it, just more like that bottom the track areas.
For example, the treads took a couple different iterations, so we got right, and be able to get like the right movement as it deforms to the ground planes. This ship is definitely more organic than anything I'm used to.
Notice how these tracks are connected, like right here, they're connected right there. If you detached these a little bit and had more of a suspension and just popped it up just a little bit and pushed the tracks just a little bit underneath, it doesn't have to be perfectly underneath, but you gain about 2 or 3 meters up and you lose about 2 or 3 meters to the side, it would be able to fit in locations a little bit better and be good.
And I suppose it's like its own challenges, but it's been a learning process.
Yeah, just to continue on to LOD 0, finalizing all of the art assets, making sure everything is going to be correct for when we move on to all of our higher detail tertiary details that will go into a bit later.
Everything from the way the doors open on the tank to the cockpit itself. When you go inside this thing, it's like stepping into a mech. It's completely different from any other vehicle I've seen in this game.
My favorite thing about the Storm is going to be the role of it. The Nova is a very, very big tank. It requires 3 people. It's got that big size 5 cannon. You don't always need a size 5 cannon. Some people may disagree, but I don't think you
Overkill is the best kind of kill. I'm sorry.
You do. The Storm is a little bit quicker. Only requires 1 person. It kind of sits in a really good spot between something very quick like a Cyclone and something a little bit more punchy like the Nova.
I'm excited the progress that the team has made on this. It's been a real beauty to work on, and it should be a lot of fun for the players too.
So what did we learn this week? Well, we learned that the RSI Lynx is the new benchmark for traveling planetside in comfort and style. That the Temporal Storm says you can blow stuff up and look slick as all heck while doing it. And that it's already in production for an intended release in the less than distant future. Now join us tomorrow for our Invictus All Vehicles Roundtable over on Star Citizen Live. And don't forget to check out everything else that's available in Alpha 319 in between visiting the Invictus showrooms. For Inside Star Citizen, I'm Jared Huckabee. Thanks for exploring the process of game development with us, and we'll see you all here next week.
Yeah, I'm pulling up some concepts for an infantry fighting vehicle, or let's just say pulling up some things I can find to give you kind of an idea. Like, this is just basically a striker, but this is going to give you an example here. This is a Halo concept, like I don't know if this is actually real or not. Maybe just fandom for a Halo like kind of light vehicle. You have the side entrance right here. You could easily make that as part of the side entrance, put it in. I know you could have 4 tracks instead of these, slimmed down, focused. You'd have to gain some height, but it wouldn't be that bad. Yeah, I know there's a funny ending. The fact that you still have to use a Hercules transport is messed up.
It's your call. You can make it.
Don't. I believe in you.
Hey, Jimmy.
I'll step out. Roll a survival check. 14. You successfully exit the elevator. Just kidding. You're dead.
Ha! Ha! Self-awareness. Who is what? Yeah, it's Jimmy. You're talking about this? Looks like they had somebody else here before. It's Grimhex, obviously. That's Jimmy. Yes, that is Jimmy. Well, see, you gotta understand the ship that Jared is on, the only constant, is an actual ship in verse. ISE is an inverse game talking about the creation of the game that it creates. The only constant is a actual lore canon ship that does broadcasts from it in the Stanton system. Don't think about it too much. It makes your brain hurt. I love the idea of a tabletop Star Citizen. I've toyed with the idea of making one. Because there's a lot of like deep lore you can pull from. The issue is more of a mechanic stuff. How powerful is lore cannon? Different kind of cannon. I saw big rumors about Squadron 42 being released next year or finally announced at CitizenCon. Is this true? There's a lot of rumors for it, but there is no confirmation of anything. Personally, I think that there's a high chance that we get an announcement date at CitizenCon. There's a lot of factors that have come into play, but again, that is all a personal look, and it's very tinfoil hat because there's no 100% confirmations. There's no like smoking gun evidence. I'll give you an example. CIG has never released the date of a CitizenCon or announced the CitizenCon this early. They announced it in December of the year before. They didn't just announce it. They announced it with one of the board members there who was there at a board meeting. Now, I could be reading way too much into this, but why would Sandy go on to onto Star Citizen Live and with her big thing being announcing the release of CitizenCon, of when CitizenCon's coming out, right after a board meeting? Why would the board be involved with the CitizenCon announcements? That seems like something other people would do, not the board of directors. What may be discussing at a board of directors is the plans on releasing the marketing team, the marketing tools to release Squadron 42, because they need at least 12 months of marketing push before they go live. And that's going to require some setup, and it's going to require some ramp up sort of thing. So that alone is immediately, that was my thought. When I heard that, I said, Squadron 42 is being announced. There's no way they've not announced that early. And a lot of other people picked up on that. And as time has gone on, more and more things seem to be pointing to that. The fact that they're doing pickup shots with John Rhys Davies, which means that they're probably doing pickup shots with some of the other actors and just haven't really talked about it yet, or they're having scheduled for them. They have a lot of the stuff they've been working on with Squadron 42 is more like, again, development is done by different companies at different paces. It's really hard to look at saying, oh, well, at this stage of development, this is supposed to be done. That's not how development works, not for video games. It really depends on what's done. But they're working on things like saved game states. They've been working on things like achievements. There's been a lot of focuses on getting the cinematics polished. So they did like a ton of cinematics and cutscenes and such for like a couple of chapters. Most in the last month. There's been a lot of that kind of emphasis. They've talked about several times in the monthly reports they want to try to make the game playable to the beginning and the end with no placeholders. So no like replace me balls or other things. Having the audio working, having the full experience from beginning to end. And then the last thing was taking Squadron off the Pledge store. I thought it was weird for them to do it without an announcement. Part of me says that's the case, but then it was pointed out to me that there's a German court case, which basically said you cannot pre-sell an item without a release date for said item. And so they may have taken it down because of that court case. But it wasn't, I don't think it was specifically a court case against CIG. I think it was just a general court case that CIG is just complying with because they do have a Frankfurt office. So that could be a big thing. It just seems weird that they would do it, all of them, and not just take it down on the German side. Because I'm sure there's a way that they could do it so that Germans couldn't access it, but everyone else could. But it could also be that because they have a company, because part of the company is incorporated in Germany, that they have to abide by German law, so it has to be just the entire, no one can get access to it because of that. And before, I've seen a lot of misinformation. People are like, oh, so you're going to do individual chapters, there's 28 chapters, so they'll release Squadron 42 is just chapter 1. It's like, no. It's because Chris is bad at naming things. CIG is bad at naming things. Chapter 1 of Squadron 42 is the first mission level of Squadron 42. There are 28 chapters in Squadron 42. Then there's another game, effectively, Squadron 42 2, Part 2 or whatever, which Chris called Chapter 2 in the past or whatever, but that will have its own series of chapters. And then after that, there's a Part 3, which will have its own series of chapters as well. It's a trilogy, yeah. It was originally supposed to be one game, but Aaron Roberts came in, took one look at it, and said, this is too fucking much. And since then, they've increased the number of missions, because they've also had things like side missions, and they also have things like ground-based missions. So, I mean, the court case could be used as a precedent against CIG. They could, which is another reason why CIG may have taken it down. I did talk to C Daddy CIG, who is one of the people who's in charge of platform. I asked him, can you tell us why it was? And he says, I cannot tell you at this time. So if they cannot tell us, I don't know. Yeah, for legal reasons, you'd assume they'd say, for legal reasons, we're doing this, but it could also cause a bunch of, like, other chaos, so they could have just said, it's just better to shut the fuck up about it, not worry about it. So there could be other issues as well. This doesn't affect concept ships, too. That's the other question, is that if that was the case as well, you'd also think that concept ships would be a problem, because there's no release date. But I think CIG could also, it is CIG's the way they make money, so they'll risk it. But there's also a little bit more argument for saying that those concept ships have a little bit more release. They don't have a affirmed release date, but they do have good faith information available if you want to know what status it's in. So. The pickup shots with principal actors is a very good indication. Usually when there are reshoots or pickup shots in the film are done, it's not far behind the completion or readiness of the movie project. Generally speaking, pickup shots are done after the main production is finished and they have a good idea of what they want to do. Usually don't do multiple shots afterwards. That's only for cinematics. And having cinematics done doesn't necessarily mean that the gameplay is done. But that being said, following Squadron 42 as I have through the monthly reports and the progress trackers, there's a lot of shit that's being done. For instance, the majority of the Squadron 42 team went full-time working on Squadron 42 last October. Since last October, they have been full speed ahead, full-time for almost all of the teams working on that game, period. Like, they hadn't been doing that before. Oh, and the Knight Rider is here. Shh, shh, shh. Everyone, shh. How you doing, Knight Rider? You wouldn't be able to tell us the reason why Squadron 42 has been removed from the website, can you? I'm just going to ask everyone I know at CIG. I know that's not your department at all, so.
You can take away my spaceship. You can take away my space suit. You can even take away my space lasers. But you can never, ever take away my space game.
Penumbra_Horizon just resubscribed for 14 months. How's it going, everyone? Laughing face.
Thank you so much for that, Penumbra, for that 14 months. You're very important public, very impressive. Is there any pedestrian? This is your fault. You're drinking night. Shots and cheers in chat. Yeah, shots and cheers. I'm sure it's been a busy week for you, Knight Rider. Check the speakers. I can't understand why no sound is coming out. God damn it. But yeah, there's a lot of signs that my Magic 8 Ball says yes, but my brain says this is CIG. The best I can tell you, I think it was it Darth that you were asking about this? The best I can tell you is I think CIG is for sure planning on getting Squadron 42 to a point where they can show it off before the end of the year. They want to do some big update for Squadron 42. Maybe a release date, maybe something else, and maybe have a plan for a release date. But just like everything that CIG does, just because they have something planned doesn't mean they can get it done. So we could be in a situation where none of that happens. And the reason why none of that happens is just because shit happens. Something can go wrong. There could be some other problems they have to reach, so... Yeah, and generally speaking, what I would say is don't get your hopes up over this. Just assume that all that CitizenCon is going to be is a showcase of Pyro, new updates on Pyro and other things like probably bounty hunting and hole munching and everything that's going to be in 320 and beyond. And don't be, if that sounds disappointing, I mean, that's just the best way of going into these sorts of things is don't think about it too much, because you're going to set yourself up for disappointment if something doesn't pan out. PyroCon Year 3, yeah. New concept ships, yeah. It's for a name change. Squadron 2 for the time I went flying with Cal Mason and friends. I love Cal Mason. He's my favorite character in Star Citizen. He's my unambiguous man crush of Star Citizen. Cal Mason is just dreamy. If I ever get to meet the actor who plays Cal Mason, I will say, I love your character. I've only barely known that character in writing, but I love the character. Did you see Jared's tweet with John RD's video to his mom? I didn't. No. He is dreamy. He is dreamy. Let me show you who Cal Mason is. You've seen him before. If you've watched the Squadron 42 trailer, you've seen him. This is Cal Mason. Very tiny face, Cal Mason. But Cal Mason. What? Don't destroy my Cal Mason love. Ah. Here we go. Cal Mason. That's Cal Mason. Cannot be displayed. His hunkiness destroyed the server. No. Jack Houston, yeah. He's in Boardwalk Empire. So. Henry Cavill plays... Oh, I forgot his name. He's the head of Squadron 42, but I remember his name. Cal Mason's not the head of Squadron 42. It'll say on the IMDb page. God, it's got Ben Mendelsohn in it. I keep forgetting about that. From Mitra. Ryan Ehrenreich. Ryan Ehrenreich. He's the commander of Squadron 42. And this is him right here. Andy Serkis plays the main villain. Yeah. Aaron Wainwright or something like that. Aaron Wright, I think is his name. It's an E. E? Yeah. Ryan Enright. Ryan Enright. Ryan. It's not Aaron. Let's see if I can pull it up. Here we go. Paul will be Bremen minor number 4. No line, just stand in a group. Listen, I will be on set for one day as a bartender just to say, hey, no droids, or some joke like that. And just be like, leave the guns at the door, and just clean my glass the entire time and have no other lines, and I'd be okay. He was at Vega too. Yeah. Him and Cal Mason. So the entire Second Fleet was at the Battle of Vega 2. They destroyed a kingship. Squadron 42 destroyed a kingship. And of course, who's the commander of the Second Fleet? Admiral Ernst Bishop. Given Gary Oldman is retired, I guess he's not in Chapter 2. He might be, if they can get him back in. Hear me out. They could get D. Bradley Baker, the voice of Van Duel, for alien NPCs. He was getting too old for this. They could target his face. That's most of his voice acting, voice line. Sorry, we're out of that. Yeah. And I do believe, yeah, they got most of the mocap, because when they originally got the mocap, it was for the full game, the full series of games, and then they broke it up into 3 different games. But just like the fact that we're seeing John Rice Davies doing pickup, we could also be seeing pickup lines and pickup stuff from other of those as well. Yeah, we already went over ISC. Yeah, well, they talked about it. It was a huge amount of work. It was like a month of mocap shoots. A straight up month. It was like 4 times the size of a typical movie script. Pickup lines, you say? Yeah, only a month. Might have been longer. It was 3 months. It was a short amount of time. It was. The way that the actors described it was like boot camp. Like they were just going. A lot of them weren't used to the mocap suits and stuff like that, and it just took them a lot longer to get through it. They just kind of churned through it like really hardcore. almost certainly they did it in an interview, because you actually see him on the set of The Only Constant. So my guess is that they recorded an interview with John Rhys Davies to play at CitizenCon or another event for Squadron 42. Y'all, don't sit here and do not believe. Okay, I'll put this way. There's a lot of footage that CIG is going to have that they've been recording. Interviews with actors, interviews with the crew, behind the scenes footage, all that stuff, which has been gathering up, waiting to be used. So. And I don't want an answer to Paul. Is that Admiral Bishop rides the military success into Squadron 42 Part 1 and becomes UEE official, military member of the Triumvirate, and the other two? It depends on what happens. They're definitely doing making of documentary. I'm sure there's going to be a book or something like that. Some of this is probably in 720p when that game was in de facto when this game was still in de facto. It was still de facto resolution when this game started development in 1921. Funny enough, CIG. One of the biggest problems that CIG had early on was they kept pushing 8K textures on the game. So the reason why the game files were so big, even though the universe was so small, was they were by default forcing you to download 8K and 16K textures for Star Citizen. So I think they were recording in pretty high resolution. You mean Squadron 42 was 8K scaled down to 480 and it's covered in Vaseline? My favorite type of cinematic experience. Hey, Brennard.
You can take away my spaceship.
I want to know if they got a gag shot of yet another pirate chasing ship, sinking UEE Admiral. Yes.
But you can never, ever take away my space game.
Branner just resubscribed for 17 months.
Thank you so much for that 17 months of support there, Brandon. You were a very important pupper, a very impressive pisser, a very neat pedestrian. This is your fault. You're the reason why I'm drinking tonight. Shots and cheers to chat, y'all. Shots and cheers. So, to set a realistic expectation, expect nothing from Squadron or from Star Citizen other than what we would typically get at a CitizenCon, which is an update on the next patch that's coming out, which by then should be 3.20, and also an update on the future patch like 4.0. That's it. That's all I would expect.
You can take away my space suit. You can even take away my space lasers.
Tell her it's your bartender, Kasumi.
Ever take away my space game.
Floof Knight just resubscribed for 2 months. Helmet time.
Thank you so much for that 2 months of support there, Floof Knight. You're a very important public, very impressive pisser, very neat pedestrian. This is your fault. The reason we're drinking tonight. Shots and cheers in chat, y'all. Shots and cheers. You joined her years ago today. Basically, it's my birthday, Star Citizen. Happy Star Citizen birthday, Zalia. Zal. She's a chef, and I'm her bartender. Actually true. Nice. Meme of the future. Star Citizen veteran player telling new players the era when servers used to crash each 2 hours. Oh god, I remember there was 20 minutes that would crash. Well, I must say, the Lynx does rather complement the Constellation Phoenix very nicely. Now all they have to do is get the hot tub working. You ask the impossible. CIG fixing the hot tub, and that would be the end of the universe. But yes, getting the hot tub working would be a great step. As Buster always likes to say, y'all will remember these as the bad old days. When this game is functioning and actually has functional loops, and a lot of the charm, a lot of the nuance, a lot of the stuff that we bitch about will be gone, and the game will actually be more functional. We'll be like, kind of miss the days when shit just didn't work quite right, and we can do so much of crazy stuff. Because when Star Citizen gets more complete, there'll be a lot of less creativity available. Not saying it won't happen, it just won't be as prevalent. Yeah, you can put the coffee cups down and turn on the coffee, but it doesn't fill up the coffee.
Them biddies.
Think of them biddies. There, Morgrath. That's years down the line. Don't worry about that. It's more like, yeah, as August made, just the dumb shit you can do. Just the absolute. For instance, here's a good example. One of my favorite things to do in early Star Citizen was that because the third person and first person animations were connected, if you did an emote, this is 2.0 days, you could emote with a gun. And when you did so, you could pull the trigger. And wherever the gun was pointed, it would fire. So if you went cheered like this, as you pull the trigger and your gun would fire into the ceiling. If you were dancing, you did little dance emotes, you're pulling the trigger, your gun would just fire wherever your hand was pointing. It was holding the gun. And they fixed it. They changed it. They fixed it entirely. And I'm just like, oh, I think they fixed it by preventing us from emoting with our guns out. That's an example of like dumb shit we can't do anymore, which was great. Yeah, just breaking your legs going down the stairs. The incredible shrinking chair. There was a step on Grimhex where we kill everyone in the server. There was the infinite speed bug that you could do with some of the ships where they would just never slow down. I mean, probably the most iconic fuck up is Jumptown. The original Jumptown Wars was because of an error in a spreadsheet. Because they put one too many zeros on a commodity for the thing, and it caused the whole damn thing to happen. Oh, I love the fact that my freelancer used to get be blown into the sky by sharp winds. It was absolutely, at the time, it was annoying as shit, but thinking back on it now, it was fucking hilarious to watch your freelancer get blown around like a balloon. Oh yeah, the Great Levski airlift, when you had to rescue people from Levski because you couldn't spawn ships at Levski. Nah, that's no fun, Remiko. actually having things working in the game, that's not what we're talking about. Oh, the ladder's killing you, though. Do you read coffee? You can read coffee easy peasy. I don't know if it'll be a good idea, though. It's super early in the morning for you. Why are you up so early, easy peasy? Oh yeah, the hacked in drones that were just camera drones that used to fire beams at your ship to repair them. Yeah, I did that there in the 318 hangars were bugged, so I had to catch people after they jumped off in Orison. Oof. Yes, old SC had better repair than we did now. It didn't always work, though. Just like now. But it was just beams. Just giant fuck-off blue beams that would fire at your ship and magically shit would come back. Yeah, it's early bird time for the office. Hopefully everything's good for you there, Easy. Just coming towards the end of my stream, so. Oh yeah, you can join. You can only join this for the hammer. Ah. Captain Richard, welcome everyone. Captain Richard stream. My name is Paul Berserker01, Batman Chill, your humble host and space bartender at the AstroPub. Welcome to the office hours. How you doing, Richard? Hey, Dan Dunsel. Captain. Were you doing some more Star Trek, or were you doing Star Citizen? Hey, good to see you, DK. The new Star Trek games, I've heard pretty good things. I've heard a mix of things, but I've heard pretty good things. Star Trek Resurgence, yes. Yeah, we're just basically talking the news and lore for Star Citizen. We've been going over the different vehicles which were released for Invictus today. We've also went off of my conspiracy theory about about the Squadron 42 stuff. So just like Star Trek, it starts a little slow and clunky, but then gets good later on. Is that what you're telling me, Cap Richard? It's always the case with Star Trek. The first seasons of Star Trek always suck. Which alien species from any area would you like to see included in Star Citizen? I'd love to see more weird species. You know, like the, oh, what are they called? The Blastos species from Mass Effect. Or like the shadows from Babylon 5. Stuff that's like non-bipedal creatures. Is that the Gek? We are the Enkindlers. Yeah, yeah. The Hanar, thank you. It's not out yet, right? I know they've made the Babylon 5 movie, but it's not out yet, right? And there's a species in the 40K universe that's allied with a Tau. That's just a series of tentacles. It's just a tentacle. It's just a hentai tentacle monster. Like something like that. That's just a sentient series of tentacles, of gooey tentacles. That'd be great. You know, I'd really like to see that's like not a civilization, but like an alien being. Kaiju. A planet full of kaiju. Megafauna. Just ginormous creatures. Yeah, something like the Flood would make sense. What about the Cloud, the slug from the Star Wars? I like that one too, yeah. I'd also like to see like a break from traditional, like for instance, hive mind creatures. Nick. Oh, thank you so much there. Nick's Gaming Lounge. Welcome everyone from Nick's Gaming Lounge. My name is Paul Berserker1, Batman Shelley. Your humble host and space bartender here at the AstroPub. Sit back, relax, enjoy the show. We've got a good one for you. Welcome to the Office Hours. This is where we just kind of talk about lore and news of Star Citizen. So where does all this lore come from? So, let me show you. Let me show you where it comes from. So let's go to the Robert Space Industries website. There's a great, if you go up here to the apps, there's a couple places you can look for. One is the star map. The star map is currently kind of busted. It's hard to maneuver and it's not been fixed. But this is probably the best place to start if you're just wanting to look for things. So give me a subject, chat, and I'll look it up on the Galactopedia. A subject you might be interested in. Later, Nick. Thanks for hanging out. Alien breeding. I look it up, but I don't think there is anything like that. Nope, nothing there. Tiber. All right, Tiber. Let's go Tiber. Siege of Tiber. So, might be able to go to the Tiber system, but I don't think it's there. So this is a full background of the Siege of Tiber. Talks about when it happened, lost of Vandul, the full siege, the full breakdown of the Tiber, plus the aftermath. You can also go down here and see the fall of Virgil. Here's INS Anine, which is one of the stations that was in the Tiber system. And there's also INS Flavius, which was another Tiber system. These are both like INS Jericho, similar things. Dunzel, thanks for hanging out. Let's go with Banu. All right, we'll go to the Banu. Just search Banu. We've got Banu Human First Content, Peace Treaty, the Religion. Let's look at the Religion real quick. So, Banu religion is made up of a wide variety of beliefs concerning rituals and the cultivation of good luck. Generally, the Banu focus less on the soul or the afterlife and more on the feeling that if something exists beyond the physical world, that should be on your side and working in your favor. It is therefore not uncommon for Banu to adopt gods from religions they encounter during the course of their lives. Casa, the patron of luck, and Tayrin, the great traveler, feature strong followings. We can go right here to the Banu themselves. A little bit more, the Banu Protectorate. Let's see if slavery has a Banu culture. Let's look at the Protectorate, and we'll have a little bit. We have a lot there. Look about the Suli. Okay, Suli. Cohabiting Banu who have formed an alliance centered around a specific shared skill set, akin to a combination of family and corporation. Members of a Suli have been raised in the group since they were young. There's a Suli to cover every aspect of life, including medicine, item manufacturing, repair, writing, politics, religion, bureaucracy, trade, and so forth. The Suli is the most single important group in the life of the Banu. We have the Esso Suli, who is the highest social rank. Esso Sulis are often the most skilled artisans in their Suli, or the ones who have accumulated the most wealth over time. The position of Esso Suli can be attained through a variety of means, not limited to popular election, appointment by another Esso Suli, assassination of another Esso Suli, or bribery of an Esso Suli. Upon divestment, and Esso Sulis retire, and their Suli are either reorganizes or disbands. Well, yeah, so, and if you don't want to, if you don't have anything specific, if you go to the Galactopedia, you can kind of just do this. You just go down to so it's like featured article S-Pop. We also have Koramor, Esso Suli, it's the most recently one, the Centennial Bloom, the Carrick, the Rusmuff Rehabilitation Systems. Oh, the recently updated is the Hornet, and then usually a random article will load in here in a bit. Okay, let's do animals. We were talking about animals earlier, right? Here's a list of all of the animals that exist. All right, let's look at the banded Thessaly. Let's look at the Valakar. Let's look at the giant Yarmoth, the Xiphopod, the Boreal Stalker. All right, so the banded Thessaly is a fish that's native to Terra. They're ambush hunters, prey on smaller fish, microinvertebrates, and zooplankton. Play an important role in the ecosystem, keeping worms and other creatures from overgrazing vegetation and disrupting delicate coral reefs. So this is a carnivore. Valakar, also known as the sandworm, can grow up to 300 meters long, and they're indigenous to Lear 3. Giant Yarmoth is flying anthropod indigenous to Yar Centauri 2. Typically has a wingspan of about 20 centimeters, making it one of the largest moths on Yar. It survives the harsh red desert by drinking the nectar of desert flowers and juices from vegetation, and primarily flying in early morning and evening. It's one of the most common pollinators in the plants in grow desert, particularly the Kavash cactus. So this is like the cactus that actually uses the moth. This is the one we actually have seen before, the blind Oni crab. It's on Lear 1. It eats garbage. It's an invasive species. It's basically like a space rat. It's everywhere. Because they can survive on basically anywhere. I guess kind of more like a seagull, but rat because they're invasive, super invasive. So here's the Boreal Stalker. This is on Microtech, genetically engineered creature that is yeah. Options to artificially engineer plants and animals to fill their microintelligence, including the Boreal Stalker. That's just Invictus launch week. So, and you can just click around too. So you can talk about, oh, what's terraformed? All right, let's look at terraforming. Boom. You can talk about terraformings, mass extinction events. We've got the Massacre of Garen 2. We also have, okay, riots, military actions. The Anti-Mezzer Revolution. Oh, Fiona Mezzer. Who's that? Oh, she was the younger sister of Linton Mezzer. Who's that? Who are their Mezzers? There's no Mezzers here, I don't think. But there is Linton Mezzer. We can see who Linton Mezzer is. He's an Imperator. Ulysses Mezzer. Anti-Mezzer Revolution. Imperator. Knight Earth Imperator. You can just click around and find some stuff. All of this stuff is available on Galactopedia. That's the easiest place to look at it. But you can also go to Jump Point magazines, brochures for ships. There's an entire language guide. Let me pull it up, actually. Here's an overview of Language Guide for Diplomats. It's 172 pages long. Xi'an is a completely constructed language. It's an artificial language. It's not real. This is all Xi'an language. Proper Xi'an. Sounds, consonants. So you see, like, actually can learn how to speak it, but you can also, there's also some other things here like that. Like there's culture mixed in. Yeah, and I can look up the Banu guide as well. Hold on. Just do. This is 242 pages long. That's what Banu looks like. Later, DK. Not yet. There's no books yet. There are short stories you can read. One of my favorites is it's really early on in it, but Cassandra's Tears. It's why Cal Mason is dreamy. Cassandra's Tears is a great kind of Pulp Fiction novel. Most of the books, or most of the stories that you see in the Star Citizen universe, the ones that are written as like short stories, they're really short, are seen as fiction in the fiction. They're considered serialized fiction, so they're talking about a fictional and a fictional event inside the fiction. So the Cassandra's Tears, a Cal Mason story, is an actual story about Cal Mason, which is kind of like Pulp Fiction in the universe of Star Citizen. So you're reading kind of like what people would read about them. So. I didn't know they were only on Layer 1. They're not only on Layer 1. They're invasive species. They're on Hurston. But Layer 1 is where like they are. Like Old West dime stories, yeah. Yeah, these are stories that our players would be reading, like that our characters would be reading, yeah. Oh, the sandworms, yeah, they're also on Layer 1. They come from the same place that the invasive species is, yep, but they're only there. Meta narrative, yeah. What's the discussion currently? Someone was asking about the lore, and I was kind of bringing up some stuff like, for instance, this is the Banu language guide. It's 242 pages, and it's not just language, it's also the full kind of background. But we've been talking about the various vehicles that are on command. Someone asked a question earlier, and I'll answer this. Someone was like, what's going on with the, like, why is it so... What about my idea of full body cybernetics? Sorry, I skipped it there for you, Shadow. Just kind of going through some of those. But cybernetics is definitely something that's in the verse. I don't think they have anything written in there yet, but full body cybernetics seem to be heavily hinted at. That they probably exist. But I do think they would almost certainly have full body cybernetics. Paul, what are the tour thoughts about the underwhelming ship release? Do you feel something behind it? Will we feel the next large ship? That's what Wisconsin. So I actually wanted to address that because I think what the reason why we're seeing really, really low cost vehicles is because I think CIG is trying to focus heavily on getting newer developers up to speed. Because a lot of the folks we've been seeing in some of these videos seem to be brand new to the ship team. So the concept artist who did the Lynx and the new one, the Storm, I don't think he's been here before, or maybe not that long. Speaking of sandworms, no chance we're going to get them unless, I mean, almost certainly we'll get them if CIG continues to make Star Citizen. It's just a matter of when, not if. The if is if CIG doesn't collapse before then. Basically, yeah. I think that a lot of these are just new hire trainings. Traditionally, CIG has a hard time keeping a lot of the ship makers, the people who make the ships. There's very few people who are working at CIG today who were around for the first ships that were designed. And, I mean, it was probably as traumatic for players as it was CIG when the entire team for who was making the Banu Merchantman quit. But it's not an isolated incident. That happens a lot with CIG. So I'm guessing CIG is trying a different approach, where they're bringing in new hires and giving them a small project so they can get that done and like feel like if they can not hack, but like they feel like they want to stay at CIG. Try to get them get some experience under the belt, get them some new ships, other things like that. You could get them acclimated to the environment in like 6 to 12 months. Before going, okay, you sticking around? You want to hang out? All right, here's the bigger ships.
You can take away my spaceship. You can take away my space suit.
Yeah, Paul Jones as well. He's probably the oldest one. Christus is probably the oldest one who's still here. Yeah.
But you can never, ever.
Yeah, sometimes get headhunted too. I think it's mostly because they get headhunted.
Shinobi Trip _ just resubscribed for 4 months.
Thank you so much for that, Shinobi, for that 4 months. You are very important, public, very impressive, Mr. Randy Pedestrian. You rock. Shots and cheers in chat, y'all. Shots and cheers. Is it because they're contractors? No, most of those people are full-time employees. The artists are contractors, but the people who are working as like the ship designers aren't. But for instance, the person who made the MSR is not working for CIG anymore. There's still very few people who are working to making ships, which is abnormal for Star Citizen, because a lot of the people who've been making Star Citizen have been around since maybe not the beginning, but close to the beginning. Very few people leave Star Citizen entirely. In fact, I've known a couple people who've left Star Citizen, come back to Star Citizen, left CIG and came back to CIG. So. And, such is the nature of video game development. People leave and come back all the time. That happens a lot. But it seems to be more frequent with the ships, and that's problematic for larger ships. So my guess is that the reason why you have smaller ships and underwhelming release has more to do with the fact that they want ships to be released, but they also don't want to focus on ships which are so big that they have no gameplay or would take too long for them to kind of predict if that gameplay is going to be done or not. Everyone loves to watch me dance in Technicolor. That's why people actually subscribe to me. No one actually subscribes to me because of my content is good. They just want to watch the funny fat man dance. I'm not saying no. What's my best estimate for Squadron 42 release? 2025. Yeah, we were talking about that earlier about Squadron 42, about why it was removed from the store. There's two theories. There's one theory which sort of makes sense, but there's a lot of other holes into it. Apparently, there was a court case in Germany that recently happened that set a precedent where if you are selling a product for pre-order, you have to have a release date, and if you don't have a release date, you can't sell it. And when I heard about that, that happened pretty recently, so that may be the reason why CIG pulled Squad 42. But that would also seemingly impact concept ships as well, because those are products without release dates. And if that was the case, it would make more sense for CIG to just code it in so that Germans couldn't buy that stuff rather than everybody. And everyone I've talked to who I've asked, what the hell's going on? They haven't just said, oh, it's a legal thing, we can't talk about it. They've said, I cannot tell you the answer to this. I cannot tell you the answer to this at this time. I will not be able to respond to this answer. Like all the people I know who work at CIG have said that. So I don't know what the fuck's going on with that. You pay taxes on it. Even though it's called a pledge, you pay taxes on it. It's still a purchase. It's one of those things where people, I've heard people say, well, it's a donation. It's not a donation. You're a pledge. You're still buying a service. You're still buying a product, and it's still considered a product by the governments of Europe. So considered a product by the state of Texas. I know that. I got to pay taxes on it. I wonder why. We have a release date in November. No, it's 2016. It was released in 2016, y'all. So, my theory is also they're just treading water as they finish Squadron 42. I hate that. All right, let me go over this, Shadowgirl. I'll explain a little bit more. This isn't to you. I've heard this before. That's really not the case when it comes to Star Citizen. Star Citizen and Squadron 42 are the same game. And I don't mean like, oh, they're built in the same engine or there's no, they were designed as the same game. They are crowbarring in things from Star Citizen into Squadron. The way Squadron works is it's just a game of Star Citizen. But instead of having a server and a client, the game will spin up a server on your machine and then put your client in the server. So they use things like object container streaming and server-side object container streaming in Squadron 42, even though the server is on your local hard drive. So like they're the same game. Anything that's done in Squadron 42 is ported over to Star Citizen. A great example of this is salvage. The salvage, the hull scraping mechanic was built for Squadron. Now, was it built for Star Citizen? Yes, but it was built first in Squadron. So anything that's done in Squadron gets moved over to Star Citizen. So we're not really like treading water. It's more like the stuff that's being worked on for Squadron that's related to Star Citizen is getting finished in Squadron before it moves over to Star Citizen. So it's a little different from what people think. So like the idea that Squadron 42 is delaying Star Citizen isn't really the case, because like I did this before. I'll ask you, chat, what's the number one thing that, like, the most important thing that needs to be added to Star Citizen next that hasn't been added, in a serious answer? Most of y'all said server meshing. Client-side server is very different from a server-side server. I'm just saying what CIG has said themselves. They've said themselves that that the way that Squadron 42 works is it uses a Star Citizen server and then puts the stuff in there. But server meshing is probably the more important. You're not getting systems without server meshing. So if server meshing is the big thing, server meshing isn't being slowed down because of Squadron. No one in on the server meshing team is working on Squadron, as far as I know. It's being worked on. So, like, Star Citizen isn't slowing down because of Squadron. It isn't being held back because of Squadron. Star Citizen is holding back Star Citizen. CIG is holding back CIG. Like, it's just taking that long for them to get this stuff done. Inforunners, X, I'm going to say it again. That's fine. But that also doesn't defeat my point. Those things that were made, PES and server meshing, were made for Star Citizen, not for Squadron 42. And they're both being made. PES was finished recently. Turbulent took over meshing. They're part of it, yes. Oh, he's in the YouTube chat, Sergeant Halfsack. I disagree there, Tasty. I think there's a lot of people who are in echo chambers who say, yes, everyone is more concerned about Star Citizen PU and you're stealing the money for Squadron. I think that's an echo chamber of a small group of people. A lot of people don't even know that Squadron 42 exists in Star Citizen. And I'll also go over the fact that, like, okay, well, gameplay is being delayed for Squadron. You wouldn't want the gameplay that they would do if they weren't doing it in Squadron. Squadron is just giving an excuse for the developers to develop a full system entirely and then release it to the PU, rather than giving you piecemeal pieces of a system that will then break and then they have to redesign when they do it again. They've also said that. Reality is that Star Citizen is being slowed down because Star Citizen is that big of a project with that much complex things. Could there be things that were prioritized more? Fuck yeah. There could be a lot of better things, but the issue when it comes down to it is not Squadron 42. Squadron 42 is really just focusing on Squadron 42 stuff. It is not really holding back Star Citizen. And I get that, Astro, but at the same time, I think it's a bad analogy because that's not what's going on. If they were just doing low-hanging fruit, they wouldn't be doing server meshing. They wouldn't be doing entirely rebuilding, like, Bounty Hunter version 2, because that has nothing to do with Squadron, which has been in development, and we even saw a little bit of a peek of it at ISC a couple weeks ago, or a month ago or so. So there's a lot of stuff that's being worked on. The whole C is in Squadron 42, but I don't think you're fully unloading a whole C in Squadron 42. Server meshing is not a good thing. You should not look at PES and server meshing as good things. Server meshing and PES are challenges that CIG has to overcome to let good things happen. Server meshing is not going to save you. Server meshing is not going to improve the game. Server meshing will just allow things to happen that weren't able to happen before. May it also have some knock-on effects that are good? Yeah, but those are entirely unintentional. Like people have been like, well, desync. Well, no, desync is going to be fixed with server meshing. Desync is entirely different. They're going to have to sit down and actually fix desync with their own, you know, optimizations or other improvements. Server meshing ain't going to do shit. We've had problems with desync since before PES, since before SSOCS. When server meshing or Squad 42 is out, I'm going to buy a lottery ticket. The point is that CIG is crowbarring in some aspects of Star Citizen into Squadron 42 because of the same game. It becomes a lot easier to code for a game if they're cross-compatible. So if you're building something to work online, you want to have all of those features also in your offline version. So it sounds counterproductive, but the idea being you don't have to do the same thing twice. You don't have to build the same code base twice. You just do it once, and then you can just port it over. The issue is less of a porting over and straight, and more of a what mechanics do we want to kind of keep or modify between the two sides. For example, hole scraping. Hole scraping was built for Squadron 42 in Squadron 42 first, and then ported over to Star Citizen. But it's not really a port over. It's more of a how do we make it work in the universe of Star Citizen, where you have to spawn these things. How do you sell these things? That kind of stuff. I don't know why. Idris P is. I don't think it's a good ship. But I don't think any of the larger ships are really worth a while. Because like the Idris P loses the main thing that the people like about the Idris, which is the big fuck you cannon. Though I guess you could get the upgrade, which is still more money, but because you get the Idris K. Later, half sack. If you're a gambling man, when do you think Squadron 42 Part 1 would get released? I would say December, or I should say October of 2025. I've been saying October of 2025 for 2 years now. How long do you think the asset dump will take when they drop Squadron 42 in the PU? It's not going to be like that, though. It's not going to be Squadron 42 is done. Now we're going to move all these assets over to Star Citizen. It's this aspect is done in Squadron. We're going to move it over to Star Citizen. And I think a lot of the stuff we saw at last CitizenCon will start the process towards the end of this year. A good example of this is the EVA mechanics. Star Citizen's new EVA 2.0, the new kind of movement system that they're doing, is already starting to affect the movement system in game more than just through EVA. Right now, the current prone system and how it works is completely been removed and replaced with the prone system using the EVA mechanics. So instead of having to hold and then turn yourself on the back and then turn yourself back over, or like hold and then like, you know, rotate. You know how you can, like, when you push one button, you kind of roll on your back? Instead of doing that, now you have a smooth move all the way around rather than having to hold on your back. And that's based off of the kind of rolling in a zero-G environment with your EVA. They've also talked about the new movement system, the more kind of parkour aspects of Star Citizen, where you can kind of grab onto things and move around and like change trajectories and stuff. That stuff's been worked on. They constantly have been talking about the new HUD and update. There's a new HUD, by the way, for all ships. All ships are getting a new HUD. And MFDs are a huge portion of that. That's been I believe the new HUD is finished. They're just now making sure that the MFDs function well with the new HUD. Because they're all being using the new building blocks, but also new designs and stuff. There's also a brand new Mobiglass, like brand new Mobiglass, entirely built up from scratch to kind of function with Mobiglass and how they want to work and that kind of stuff, which includes a new map. A lot of stuff is done or in a stage of being completed. It's just first being put into Squadron 42. And the reason why I know all of this is because it's all in the monthly reports. Squadron 42 monthly reports have a lot of this stuff on it. I think we'll get another update on it probably towards the middle of this year. And we'll definitely get an update on it at CitizenCon at the very least. There'll probably be a big discussion, kind of how they did with this last CitizenCon, where they kind of talk about some of the new aspects of Squadron 42. That's probably the most I would venture to guess. My hopium brain, my hopium addicted brain says that CIG is going to announce a release date. They'll drop another cinematic trailer and a release date, not a like June 15th, 2025. It'll be like Q4 2024. I think CIG will announce the release of Squadron 42. If they do announce a release this year, it will be announced for 12 months in advance, so October of fall of 2024. I don't think they'll hit it. I think they'll get close to it in, say, like August and say, we're going to have to delay it a little bit and delay it 6 months to a year. And then in Invictus 2025, they'll make an announcement that it's going to come out in that fall. Why? Because that always happens with video games these days. There's always a delay somewhere. You get to the point where you're like, I'm ready to go, and you find some weird shit, and you got to change something up. So we're almost at the halfway part of the year. Yeah, that's what I was saying. Probably like July or August is when we'll get that update. You'll know really... You did really bad at trivia? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm terrible at trivia. I never do trivia stuff. My parents go to trivia every Tuesday night, I think. You giving up hope on there? You're just a QA tester. What do you do QA for, Astro? Yeah, you're right, Kenran. There's a lot of work towards the end which needs to get done. So a lot of that is just going to say Squadron 42 is going to probably take longer than CIG thinks. We'll know more when we know more. CIG won't tell us it before that. But I also don't think that Squad 42 is affecting Star Citizen as much as people think. Because of different factors. One, a lot of the stuff that's done for Squadron 42 is also for Star Citizen. The engine work, for instance, and all of the other things. It means that we're all QA testers and not gamers. Yeah. We're early access. We're just in a really weird early access game. What do you think will things like, say, like MFD changes and new Mobiglass startups in the PU? Not until after 4.0. Maybe, if we're super fucking lucky, 4.0. But I don't think so. I think we'll see most of that stuff come in like 4.1 or 4.2. And I don't think we're going to see 4.0 release until at least, at the earliest, March of next year. Probably, maybe even later. Later, Inferno. I get what you're saying, Astro, but I play video games that are in early access that do that too. I still play those games. The QA is not fun. QA's job is to do the same thing over and over and over again and try to break it as many times as possible. There's definitely some aspects of QAing that can take place in Star Citizen, but I don't know. I'm not getting paid to do anything, so. Hey, Hunter! Good to see you, buddy. I'm glad you're hanging out here. I haven't seen you in forever. Welcome to my channel. This is more of a hangout portion for Star Citizen. We do this every Thursday where we just kind of talk about the news and lore and stuff like that. Very, very long while. I'm glad to see you back, though. So Master Meme, I'm going to tell you about this. Sit down and stay a while. Stay a while and listen. There, Master Meme. I was playing DayZ during the early Bean Bandit days, the mod days. So I was a huge fan of DayZ. And when it went to the standalone, I was one of the first to buy it in early access. I played the hell out of it. So I know how bad early access can be. Because that was literally the game that brought me back to PC gaming. Was the DayZ mod of all things. Ooh, Decker King reference. It's appropriate. Diablo's coming out, right? DayZ's charm was in its potential. The sky was the limit with DayZ. Just so much you could do and change, but it's all very focused on immersion. It's focused on, well, not immersion. What did Rocket used to call it? He called it authenticity. Like, it feels authentic, an authentic experience. And there's a lot of, you fuck up, you go back to the starting zone. Like, you could lose everything in a second if you weren't careful. And I think Star Citizen has similar feels to that. That's the thing. We're not getting paid, but we should be. Maybe we could accrue permanent starting in our game fund slowly from our sacrifices. Yeah. They used to do that in the past. They used to give us bonuses of UEC if we'd been around for a little bit while. So. When I first booted up Star Citizen, it reminded me of Kingdom Come Deliverance, such an immersive game. Here's another fact you may not know. Did you know that the devs of Kingdom Come Deliverance and the devs of Star Citizen have worked together? Because Kingdom Come Deliverance uses the same engine as Star Citizen. They actually traded technology. I believe the cloth physics of Kingdom Come, I think, was used for Star Citizen. So a lot of the stuff that was developed. Yeah, there's actually a big announcement about it. They use the cloth physics from Kingdom Come. And Kingdom Come uses something from Star Citizen. I think it's PBR or some of the reflective lighting. So some of the lighting is very similar. I wouldn't be surprised if CIG managed to slip some Kingdom Come Deliverance in there. Henry's come to see us. I'd love to see more melee weapons, yeah. There's a lot of melee weapons in the game. There's a joke I've been saying about Squadron 42. When we read the Squadron 42, actually, this is the show where we actually go through the monthly reports when they come out. There was an entire 4-month spread when CIG was working on the Vanduul combat animations, and the way they were describing it was just straight up, this is just Dark Souls. You're just making Dark Souls, CIG. What the hell are you doing? So we used to call it, the joke was Dark Citizen or Star Souls. Because there's timing, you have to time to roll out of the way, not roll, but get out of the way to avoid melee attacks, these brutal melee attacks that come down from the Vanduul. Soul Citizen, yeah. Not that Soul Citizen, though. I don't know if they helped with melee animations. I think it was Cloth Physics. It may have been CIG working on Cloth Physics that gave it to Kingdom Come. I'd have to look up the status between them. But there was a post about it that they talked about it. Not only is there so there are bespoke melee weapons that are being designed for a specific gang called the Screaming Galsons. They all have unique animations for various weapons. There is ballistic shields in Star Citizen, which players apparently can use. So there may be full melee systems that are in Squadron 42 that have yet to be ported over to Star Citizen. Kingdom Come was great. I kickstarted it back when it was Kickstarted. It was great. It's a great developer. I wouldn't. Let's keep off the copium of melee of like Kingdom Come Melee and Star Citizen. I don't think we're going to see something like that, but I'd be okay with more complex than just punching. Things I want in no particular order: coffee, swords, jetpacks, full cybernetic options. I think you can get all of those. I don't know if you're going to get jetpacks into the sci-fi, like, psh, you're not going to get, like, Mandalorian jetpacks. But you might get some, like, mobility assistance devices or something. But I wouldn't put it past CIG to put swords in. A mobility scooter? I've joked for a long time that I want axes. I want, like, old school Age of Sail boarding axes. And a lot of people are like, well, I'll just shoot you. I'm like, not in the time by the time you know I'm there, I can clear the distance between you and your, the time you pull out your gun with my axe and chop you up, and I don't have to reload my axe. My axe isn't going to penetrate the hull. Like Titanfall boosters, yeah, something like that. I don't think we're going to see full-on Titanfall stuff, but like little hops here and there. There is a crossbow, that's true. Axes with quantum drive for extra power. All right, y'all. I think I'm going to call it. Thank you for hanging out. We'll be back on Saturday for the Drake Defense Con lore tour. So for those who don't know what my floor tours are, I go onto the floor of events like IAE and Invictus. And then you can come in, and I'll go walk you around the floor and tell you about the lore of the various ships, the manufacturers, all that sort of things on the floor. So we'll be doing that. Then we're going to be doing a captain's table. I hope. I haven't yet talked to anybody about doing a captain's table, so we'll have to see what's going on for that day. May not, so it may just be that floor tour. Then Sunday we're going to be doing a bit of a subathon. Because we're just going to do some lore explorations. If they don't know, I run an organization called the League of Relic Enthusiasts. There are very hard to find, but you can find relics. Okay.
The Hunter Wild just got a sub from C0FF33 Gaming. C0FF33 Gaming gifted a tier 1 sub to the Hunter Wild. They have given 45 gift subs in the channel.
Thank you so much for gifting that sub.
Major_Papercut just had a space baby. Pub cheers.
Thank you so much for that. 9 months of support there, Major Paper Cut. You and Hunter Wild, the most very important pumpers, very impressive pissers, very good pedestrians. Y'all rock. Shots and cheers in chat, y'all. Shots and cheers. I saw your joke about the penetrating the hole with an axe. Ha 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 ha. Very funny there, Shadow Girl. Axis with 50 caliber repulsor. Don't forget the SEL roundtable. Oh yeah, they'll have to do that kind of stuff. We'll definitely be watching it, but I'm not gonna be doing it live. That's for another hour. Let's see. But yeah, we're gonna be doing some lore expeditions. We're gonna be looking for those rare relics at derelict outposts. So it's mostly just us tooling around, trying to find old artifacts and shooting a lot of Ninetales. So we'll be doing some of that, and if people drop away, then we'll be doing other things as well. But it'll be a small subathon, just kind of like a end celebration. Hopefully get some more money, because I need to get some money for CitizenCon, because I need to be able to pay for stuff, and I'm not quite there yet. So, right, Alex, what are they there for? To sell or to hold into a museum? That's our goal. The long-term goal of the lore group, the League of Relic Enthusiasts, is to start up our own museum and have people come and pay money to go see relics of the past. Anywho, thank you all for hanging out. Love your faces. And like I say every time, hope to see you someday in the black.